Now, does that include, because this is something I wanted to ask about, I've heard a lot of people about dumping. I've heard business owners that are saying, we've had to lock up our dumpsters and now people are piling trash on the sides of our dumpsters. When you, that total number you have, does that include what the city workers are taking from the parks and everywhere? Is that incorporated into that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know staff doesn't want me saying this, but for those that are dumping, we're not just picking it up. We're looking at it. And we'll be back to visit you when we know it's yours. And I think that that's part of the enforcement piece.
Are you able to work with some of these business owners on that? Or
Well, so, other than seeing social media posts, I'm not hearing that.
okay,
Right? They're not calling this office and saying, "Hey, we have a problem with this."
can they?
They can. I mean, listen. I think it's been pretty clear for me in the 14 months that I've been in office that I will meet with anybody. Whether or not I meet with you a second time depends upon the first meeting and whether or not a second meeting is productive, whether or not a second meeting is solution oriented, whether or not a second meeting is respectful. Like, when I make decisions, you, any other news sources, or members of the public have the right to attack my policies. I'm game for that, right? I ran for public office. I gave you that opportunity, right? I said, I want to be your mayor. I'm going to fix things. I know I'm not going to fix things for everyone. So you like me, you don't, right? You like me, you don't, shouldn't even be part of a conversation. You don't like the policy, you do like the policy, should be the conversation. I think that just using you as an example, as long as we can have a dialogue and as long as we can be respectful and as long as we're not done taping and then you go, I was with that Mayor Marchetti and he's such a jerk and I can't, right? Well, that's not going to get you a second interview.
Right.
And I don't think I need to tell you that, right?
That's never happened.
Right.
So.
But that's common sense. I'm happy to meet. I'm happy to sit down. We're still doing our quarterly downtown neighborhood meetings. We're still doing coffee with the seniors. I'm happy to meet with people because I got my mind and I make my decisions based on what I hear and based on my life experiences.
I've said this several times since you've been in office. You've been very accessible. There's no question about that. Anytime I've texted you, called you, and I'm assuming because you're like that with me, you're like that with everyone.
I don't have a reason not to be.
That's nice. I mean, it makes everything that much easier, and I think it helps diffuse things as well.
Well, and I think that as we kind of discussed before we went to, there was one post about what people were doing. And so I reached out to the person and said, can you tell me the vicinity of this? So, because if you post a picture and say this is happening here, where's here? Right? Like, is it Valentine Road? Is it Pex Road? Is it William Street? Where's here? Because I can't do a follow-up if I don't know where here is. And I'm not afraid to kind of do the thing and listen. I had one chance to do an implementation. I firmly believe that we were open, we were transparent, we put the information out there. I get it. There are people that don't like it. It doesn't work for them. And I can appreciate that. I can respect that. But when you're making decisions, do you make it for the greater good of all or the greater good of one or two people? Or, in this case, it's a 50-50. And if I can reduce the costs for solid waste collection and disposal by $500,000 or more and stem that, right? So it's not $3 million this year, $4 million next year, $5 million the year after that. Why am I not going to try to do that? Because it's not about the $500,000 I'm saving. It's about the reductions, and it's slowing down the the exponential increase.
So far, are you happy with what you're seeing?
I am. I mean, if you would have told me that in 3 short months, we would go from a 9% recycling rate to 20. And you know what? I get it. When we implemented this, the last thing I wanted to do was be out in public. I didn't want to go out to eat because everyone had an opinion. Now what's interesting is everyone still has an opinion, but there are a percentage of people that are coming up to me and saying, hey, Mayor, it's really not that bad. I've learned to recycle. We have this little project in my house where under the sink is 3 buckets, blah, blah, blah. I'm chasing my husband all the time because he doesn't follow the rules, but we're making it work. And I challenged everyone's life's behaviors, right? We always just went down to the curb, dropped whatever we wanted to for the most part, and walked away. I guess I challenge those that tell me that this is a system that's dirtier, because when you were putting plastic bag after plastic bag, animals got into those bags all the time and the garbage was going all over the place. So maybe not your next door neighbor, but many other people's next door neighbor had that problem. So I think it does provide a more sanitary way of doing the collection. It does provide a more uniform way. Unfortunately, it's not a one-size-fits-all system for everybody. And some of us are on the good side and some are on the bad side of whether it works for us or not.
So I guess before I get to the last question then, to the people that had concerns like that question we read earlier about trash ending up in that person's yard, can they feel confident that soon that is the next step in the process to get that taken care of?
So I would say yes. Again, as I said, the health department's out, 1 inspector per day, driving around, looking at what's happening. I would also say to folks, I have a great staff. Mayor's office at cityofpittsfield.org, all one word, all small letters. While you're putting something on a social media post, or, I appreciate the fact that you were collecting questions for today's show, folks should also feel comfortable emailing that email to Mayor's office at cityofpittsfield.org, and we will do our best to address the situation. And in some cases, it might just be, hey, this is happening frequently at this address. When the guys pick up the tote and stuff falls all over the place, can they pick it up? Right? We said they would. Can we do that? And maybe that's us putting pressure. If it isn't happening, and I find it to be interesting because I think people find a way about things. There's a number of households on a regular basis that Casella seems to have forgotten to pick up their trash. I'm not sure that that's the case. In some cases, I think they picked up your trash, you ran the thing back up to your garage, you filled it up and brought it back down and said, hey, they didn't come pick up my trash. I don't think that's every household, right? And there are clearly issues with some routes where we've missed streets or we missed stuff. But when it's a one-off and we missed one house on a street, I'm finding it hard to believe that we actually missed it. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Could it be they just put their garbage out late?
They could put their garbage out late or whatever the case may be. And there's 1,001, answers. And I know that during the process, we were clear. Your trash should be out by 7 a.m., right? And today may be one of those days where we said, have your trash out by 7, because they were going to be on the road at 7 trying to get ahead of the storm where it was going to start as snow and then as ice. The quicker they got a jump on it, hopefully they could get most of it collected. Because
I'm assuming it is trash collection day every day somewhere in the city, correct?
Monday through Friday.
Okay. So the last question would be, and again, this is another one we kind of spoke about ahead of time, was that some people, more than one, but said the wind this time of year, these totes keep falling over, and I'm constantly having to run back outside, pick the garbage up, and if I don't do that, the truck comes to pick it up. It's automated. They're not picking up the trash that blew all over the yard. Is there some kind of solution to that?
Well, other than the sidebar conversation that we had before we did this, and on occasional I'm not hearing that, right? And again, we kind of touched upon it. When we used to put our paper out in the little blue bin with no cover, and it was windy, that didn't stay in your little blue bin, right? It blew out and into your neighbor's yard. With this, with the cover, I have not, in all this time, experience, and I think that my area is a wind tunnel, and this winter has probably been worse than most with the snow drifts that happen in certain parts of my driveway and my yard. I haven't had that experience. Not having folks come forward again and make the case, I'll take this back with me and have a conversation with Commissioner Morales and the folks at Casella to say, what are we missing? What are we doing? I know in some cases, it's how you stack your tote, right? So you only have that little piece at the bottom, and then you kind of got the bump out. So you've only got maybe a 1 by 1 foot or 2 foot by 2 foot space in the very bottom. If you're not putting something there, and then stuff is, maybe it's in the way that you're loading the tote. But I'll take that back, and I'm sure you'll be visiting me again. We can get that answer for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be always messaging you about interviews about something. So I guess to summarize the whole thing, anybody dumping those concerns, you have heard some, and you guys are addressing it. The lids being closed, that is something that will be enforced?
It will be. I mean, I think that as we get more and more into the process, I think we can relax it a little bit and have that gray space. But for right now, people are being tagged saying the lid needs to be closed. I mean, I think if you drive around town, if it's open an inch or two, that's going to be okay because as it falls. But when the lid is like almost at a 90-degree angle with the tote.
I've seen them where there's more trash on top that can fit, and I'm thinking, there's no way. As soon as the arm hits that, there's no way. They're just balancing now.
Right.
And as you know, and I've said this a lot of times, I'm a huge proponent of the tote system. I think it's organized, it's cleaner for the city, and then of course I get that the main goal behind it was to reduce trash for us, but from that point of the organization and the cleanliness, that was always appealing to me. But if you don't close those lids, especially in the winter here, crows and squirrels are the biggest ones, and they'll rip it apart in minutes.
And if you don't close the lid in the middle of summer, your little bear that is your neighborhood friend.
Yes, that's an issue too. So, all right, well, that's good to know. So I think that does cover just about everything with concerns people have. So for those of you that did message me about dumping, because I do know, and I'm sure you do too, Burbank Park, the dog park, on their own social media, they had posted that somebody. Mm-hmm. So those are things that the city is looking into and is addressing.
But let's be clear. Those are things that the city was looking into prior to the toters, because it happened all the time prior to toters as well. So,
do you think there is an increase now in dumping?
I don't think that we've seen.
Okay.
From that perspective, I don't think we've seen, and especially, what are we talking about dumping, right? If we're talking about bags, that may be one piece, but dumping a mattress or a refrigerator or a stove or a couch, that has nothing to do with the toter program, right? And so.
But what about the increased fees at the transfer station?
I guess that may be, but you can still get your little pink sticker and put it to the curb. So, the collection process of putting your couch at the curb and having Casella pick it up is still there.
Okay.
That fee didn't increase. It's not every single week, right? So when you buy a sticker, there's a certain week of the month that we're doing these things, but that price didn't change.
Okay. I did not know that, so that's good to know. So hopefully that does answer everything for everyone. I know we'll be talking about some other stuff down the road, because one of the things and it kind of correlates to the garbage that the local media put out that kind of shocked me, is that over 70%, I think it was 71% of our students are below the poverty line. And that kind of correlates to these households saying that $160 is a lot. Are you looking possibly at any kind of program that could help them?
So at the council meeting, I talked about two things, and one was let's see what the system looked like. Let's see what our savings are, and I think in a full year's process, the savings are going to be more than the $500,000 that we projected. So now let's look at it. Right? I said this at the council meeting, the week of Christmas. If I go to Casella and say, "Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever holiday season," pick up what people put out. Right? If there's 3 extra bags, pick them up. What's that going to cost me? I'm sure Casella will give me a price. If I'm saving X number of dollars, does it make sense to be able to do this? Is it something that maybe we can do twice a year? And on the flip side, we have criteria for low to moderate income families with both like the school lunch program and the community development block grant program. Can we design a program that works? Now, the question is, do I design the program to help and then they don't have to abide by any of the rules? So I'm designing a program so they can have a second trash toter, and each week they put out 2 trash toters and they don't put out a recycling toter? I don't think that works, right? Because the emphasis is on educating people to recycle. And so when we have these conversations, it's not just as simple as, do we create a program for them? Are they abiding by the program, and are they recycling? Or is it just purely a trash pickup? And
Right.
if they recycled, would they need the second toter? So I just want to be careful on, yes, we can and we will, but we need to be honest and upfront about what that program would look like. And it's not giving you the ability to throw out whatever you want to while everyone else abides by the rules.
Yeah, I think it's going to take getting through all 4 seasons, acquiring that data, and then kind of knowing more. So it is still early in the game, but good. This is great. I think this hopefully answers most of the questions that were sent to me. So I do appreciate it. I appreciate your time today, and I'm sure I'm going to be getting in touch with you soon so we can talk about some other things.
There's nothing else happening in the city.
No, this is it. Just garbage.
Just garbage. Well, maybe it is just garbage. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you again, Mayor Marchetti. I definitely appreciate your time today. And that's it for now, guys. And I'll catch you all in the next day or two.